Good afternoon. I hope you all are keeping up with all your classwork and all your classes and staying socially distanced. Here's a little happy face for you. Oh, and eyes. Uh, Somewhat happy. Today we're going to talk about the perfect passive participle following up on the present participle which we learned last stage. The participle is a verbal adjective existing somewhere between a verb and an adjective and exhibiting characteristics of both. As a verb, you'll have tense and voice. As it can also have objects, indirect or direct. And as an adjective, it will of course modify a noun, but it will therefore also have case, quantity, and gender. The form of the perfect passive participle is actually the fourth principal part of a verb. So if you were to look at your vocabulary checklist or look at the vocabulary section of the book, and you're to look up any verb, you'd see that most of them have four principal parts. The first principal part, laudo, ago, that's always the I verb form of the verb. And the second principal part, laudare, agere, is always the to verb form. And that's the infinitive. And then, of course, we know that the third principal part, laudavi, egi, is kind of the same as that first principal part, except it's perfect tense. So laudavi, I praised, egi, I did, I made. And then we come to the fourth principal part, and you don't have to do anything to it. That is the perfect passive participle. That's what it is. Laudatus actus, perfect passive participle. What you might actually want to know is that because it's an adjective, it's actually laudatus, but hold on. It's actually laudatus, laudata, laudatum, and same down here, because it has to have masculine, feminine, neuter forms. That's a um right there. That's kind of messy. Now, let's talk about for half a second here that this participle is passive. So that means the action part is happening to whatever noun it's modifying. So we could say noun having been verbed, the noun having been verbed. So that's what's going on here. So Angela laudata a Domino erat laetissima. And here's your perfect passive participle. And obviously, it is feminine, singular, nominative, modifying Angela. So the slave girl, having been praised by the master, was very happy. Now, I know in English a lot of times we would just say, the slave girl praised by the master was very happy. And that's an acceptable translation, but just to emphasize that it's the perfect passive participle, we can keep the having been for right now. So the slave girl, having been praised by the master, was very happy. And it's passive because that action, having been praised, is going back to Ankila. Memor a liberto excitatus iratissimus erat. So, if you see excitatus, that's your perfect passive participle modifying memor. So it's because it's modifying memor, it's masculine singular nominative, just like memor is. And it's going back, whatever the action is going back to having been wakened. Memor, having been wakened by the freedman, was very angry. You will, one thing to look at here is you will notice that if you were to look at all of the verbs in your checklist or in the vocabulary, you're going to notice that that fourth principal part, the perfect passive participle, either ends in like sus or tus. Always. And interesting, well, we won't get into that part, but so you'll always note, that's one way to notice. So laudata, you see that T there. Excitatus, you see that T there as well. All right, we've only learned two participles. We have the present participle, present active, and that's different from the perfect passive, where the noun doing the action of that participle, as opposed to the passive participle, where that action is happening to the noun. So we could say the boy loving, or well, I just said the loving. The boy loving, dot, dot, dot. Loving would be your present participle, or we could say the boy having been loved. And now that's your perfect participle, so that's happening here. That's modifying boy, but boy is actually doing the action. And having been loved is still modifying boy, but now that action is happening to the boy. All right.